walked for nearly 9 kilometers late at night. They obstructed her path, forcing her to stop her car. The stalkers then allegedly walked up to her car and tried to force it open.
They kept trying to block me in, trying to get me to slow down or stop, trying to scare me into stopping. Twice they got out of the car, and the final time they got to the car, banged on the window, and the guy tried to open the door.
But the gutsy girl had already called the police, who reached the spot. The stalkers, it would seem, were caught with no way out. Except Vikas Barala, the stalker, was the son of the Haryana State BJP chief, Subhash Barala. What followed was a brazen display of VVIP racism. The Chandigarh police blamed of diluting the case to ensure harm doesn't come the way of the VVIP brat.
देखिए, ये आपकी अप्रीहेंशन है, हमारे ऊपर कोई किसी तरह का दबाव नहीं है. अगर ऐसी कोई बात होती तो सेम डे FIR क्यों रजिस्टर?
And while the police upbraided the media for pursuing the case, the VVIP dad's comrades have come to the rescue. Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar, among others, has stepped up to shield Subhash Barala.
पहला विषय है ये चंडीगढ़ पुलिस का मामला है, इसलिए चंडीगढ़ पुलिस पर हमको पूरा भरोसा है. कानून अपना काम करेगा. दोष यदि सिद्ध होगा तो कानून के अनुसार कार्रवाई होगी.
श्री सुभाष बराला का स्पष्ट रूप से मानना है कि विकास बराला के मामले में कानून अपना काम कर रहा है. कानून सम्मत सारी चीजें होनी चाहिए, सच दुनिया के सामने आना चाहिए, और अगर किसी ने गलती की है तो उसकी गलती सजा मिलनी चाहिए.
The opposition meanwhile is demanding Subhash Barala step down to ensure a fair probe.
Between 2:30 to 5 p.m., somebody from the Home Ministry or somebody from Central BJP leadership calls and tells them, brush this issue under the carpet, hush up this case, close it.
But despite the outcry, the Chief Minister is unwilling to budge, and many questions are left unanswered. Despite the complainant's statement in the FIR, why was Vikas Barala not charged with attempt to abduct? Why isn't Vikas Barala charged with drunken driving? Why is the police unable to recover CCTV footage? And the biggest question of them all, were charges diluted so VVIP brat Vikas Barala could get bail? Mirror Now report.
Well, the unfortunate thing that happened after this story broke was, like always, several very, very important people indulged in victim shaming. We're not putting up visuals of the victim in this case because they're irrelevant. We're putting up visuals of the perpetrators. This on your screen is Vikas Barala, the 23-year-old law student who got behind the wheel of the car after drinking and then decided to chase down a single woman who was driving her car until, according to her own admission, her hands were shaking and she was afraid for her life. Also, this is his father, Suresh Barala, who's going to be up on your screen in a bit. He heads the BJP in Haryana. We'll also put on your screen, through the course of this conversation, people who've come out and shamed the victim, questioning why she was out at night, who she was with, was she drinking, is she really a beti of this country? These are the leaders of our country who, after making Beti Bachao a massive slogan, when push came to shove, decided Beta Bachao is more important. And the manner in which the Chandigarh police have behaved in this particular case reeks of political pressure. There is no other way to explain it. There is no reason why outraging the modesty of a woman was not applied in this particular case. There is no reason why attempt to kidnap or abduct with the intention of wronging a woman was not applied in this case. There was no reason why he was not held in custody until the investigation was over. I want to put just a case in point. A few minutes ago, Kiran Bedi put out on Twitter her response, and it is so clear and it's so important that people in power hear what she is saying. Kiran Bedi said, "My response is strictly according to media coverage of the Chandigarh stalking case. My assessment is that the accused should not have been allowed to be let out on bail without due verification and interrogation. His custody ought to have been sought to verify the allegations. Also, it should have sent him or them for a medical checkup, which they did not. I do not know. Rest then would have fallen into place. The police would have played a more just role in a sensitive crime as stalking and alleged attempt to kidnap. Kiran Bedi. What she has said very, very carefully here, that the police would have played a more just role, meaning the police did not play a just role. The police should have, would have, could have been more just, but they were not. And that is the situation we face today. It comes down to the same thing. We make rights of women and crime against women a slogan in this country. But when it comes down to it, when it's a powerful person, when it's an influential person, the rights of a woman are brushed under the carpet and squashed underfoot, because that is what this country believes right now. Joining me on the show this evening, Anila Singh, spokesperson of the Haryana BJP, Priyanka Chaturvedi, national spokesperson of the Congress Party. We'll also have, through the course of this conversation, the victim in this particular conversation, in this case, who's going to join us and talk about her ordeal. Dr. Zeenat Shauqat Ali is the Director General of the World Institute of Islamic Studies for Dialogue, Peace and Gender Justice. Swaranjit Sen, former DGP, Andhra Pradesh. Flavia Agnes, women's rights lawyer. And Ramakanth Gaur is a senior lawyer with the Supreme Court. Uday Sahay, former IPS officer. We've carefully picked this panel to understand the legality, because we can fling accusations about what should have been done or what shouldn't have been done, but the law is clear. And if we refer back to the law, we should know if there was wrongdoing on the part of the Chandigarh police. I'm going to start with the police officers here, and I'm going to start with Uday Sahay first. Uday Sahay, we understand, of course, that Haryana is a complicated place where gender justice is hard to come by. But do you believe that this particular young man should have been let out on bail?
Strictly speaking, no. Why? Because from the statement that you can make out, not only given in the initial period, reiterated over and over again, now also on media by the victim, clearly brings out offences which are non-bailable, and there was no reason therefore to register case without a non-bailable component in it and let the guy just move out with bail.
Under the IPC, what should he have been charged with, Mr. Sahay?
Primarily, there is something called stalking, which is missing. There is something called attempt to abduction, because she's a major, which is missing. And apart from that, you can also put some minor section, because I do not know her other background like community, etc. And those are attracted in such cases. Whereas the case that is being registered, that is already registered, misses out on those components.
In fact, I want to bring in Swaranjit Sen here. Swaranjit Sen, this young man has been charged with 354D stalking, and now the DSP has added a second charge on section 341, punishment for wrongful restraint. And I want to read out for you what this young girl said in her Facebook post. She said, "I find it shocking that in a place where there were cameras and there were lights and cops about 200 meters away, these boys thought they could get into my car or take me into theirs just because they were from an influential background. My hands were shaking, my back spasming with fear, half in tears and half bewildered, because I did not know if I would make it home tonight. Who knew?" Do you believe, Swaranjit Sen, that this perpetrator was let off the hook?
Well, from the facts, it seems that the police certainly has been lenient. There is one statement which I read somewhere, which says that, or was it on video, that the police said that they had 2 cans of beer. Now, why should police say such a thing? Because just 2 cans of beer would not make a person lose his balance or get into an inebriated situation. So I did not like that statement, and it seemed as if right from the beginning the police is trying to dilute this whole incident. It is a very serious incident. 304D in certain states is non-bailable. I am not sure what it is in Haryana. If it is not, I would suggest that it should be made non-bailable. If I am not mistaken, it carries a sentence of 3 years with a fine, which can be extended to 5 years. Now these are all very serious sections, and for this particular incident, I think she's just been very lucky, because the boys, the young boys, in the condition that they were certainly drunk, otherwise, and they could have done anything. She was right to feel that she was in a situation where she could have sort of lost her life, and that is the kind of fear that was instilled in her. So where is the question of being lenient with people like this? And especially if these boys are highly connected, which they are, I would say that even their parents should be to blame. What kind of upbringing are they giving these kids? And it seems to be not these kids, but most children who are the children of very important people.
Good evening, sir. I'm John.
What is wrong with you?
Right. I just want to open this up to the rest of the panel. Priyanka Chaturvedi, the national spokesperson of the Congress party. Obviously, justice has not been done in this case.
No, it is pretty obvious when you have ex-retired police officers coming on record and making statements like this. It becomes pretty clear that somewhere leniency has taken place and they need to be held accountable. But what needs to be answered really is, we live in a country where crimes reported have very few conviction rates. When you have someone who is in a position of influence, instead of holding them accountable, we see them trying to dilute the charges against the accused. Can you imagine a scenario? This is a scenario which takes place almost on a regular basis with women in India. Whenever they step out of the house, they're always worried about whether they would return home safe. This becomes a responsibility of the elected representatives when they come out and seek our votes for safety and our empowerment, that we hold them accountable for it. Charges dropped. Now we get to know that even CCTV footage is not available. So if this does not ensure that Vikas Barala gets away with it, then I don't know what else will. And question needs to be asked of the government and Chandigarh police, which reports to the governor as well as the Ministry of Home Affairs, then it does put them in a poor light.
Absolutely. I want to bring in Flavia Agnes. Flavia Agnes, this is a gross violation of women's rights. If women are not taken seriously as victims, and we saw post that the kind of victim shaming that was indulged in this particular case was disheartening, and a lot of it came from government.
Yeah, imagine we are in 2017. There has been so much talk, particularly after the Delhi gang rape. There has been so much talk about law reform. We got new law in place. But the basic patriarchal attitudes do not seem to leave us. They're so ingrained in our mind, and they're so ingrained in the minds of the politician, minds of the police. Anybody who is supposed to act on behalf of the girl acts against her interest. So my question is, what is the point of putting all these laws in place when there is no political will to implement it? It's always, if this is my relative, then the laws must be bent, law must be twisted, law must be changed. But for somebody else, the common man, he has to be like put in jail, don't give bail, etc. Unless this attitude changes at the higher ups in political circles, we cannot send any message down. And if they are blaming the victim, what was she doing? Why was she out so late? Why was she driving? What was she wearing? Then according to me, we have made no progress at all at any quarters.
Absolutely right.
Dr. Ali?
Absolutely right.
I think, this kind of assault on the dignity of women, violating their person, vandalizing and terrorizing them, where their safety has become totally irrelevant, has now not to be taken lightly at all. And there have to be laws that have to be implemented, because we are living in a democracy where the rule of law must prevail now and forever. So this kind of an approach and attitude, even by the police, where as it has been pointed out, that there was no case of abduction, there was no case of outraging a woman's modesty, where she could have been kidnapped, she could have been raped, anything could have happened to her life.
Yes.
It becomes totally irrelevant. And this VVIP culture and this arrogance that goes with it, it is very unfortunate that, educated young men have to behave like this, where they have to be role models, especially when they are the sons of ministers, and they should be role models. We find that they are just exactly the opposite. So this is just, it's not workable, and we have to find, solid solutions instead of, making excuses.
But this is, Vikas Barala is being let off the hook. But I want to point out one thing, that if the police had not arrived on time, and the victim in this particular case has constantly talked about how she says she's grateful to the police for having arrived at time. If the police had not been allowed to arrive, or did not arrive on time, then we would be holding candlelight marches and we would be crying for the life of this girl. But now, given the fact that the police did their job, they arrived on time, they caught these boys red-handed, they're not being allowed to charge them, they're not being allowed to punish them, they're not being allowed to make an example of them, so that they never ever do this again. And no son of a powerful minister ever decides that he can get away with this kind of behavior. Ramakanth Gaur, we've seen this happen. Now this person is out on bail. Now there will be a series of political pressure on the police. There will be political pressure on the parents of this girl, and on the girl herself, to make sure that they soften their stand.
Undoubtedly, because if the politicians of a state level politics are trying to say something, then an investigating officer of the rank of a sub-inspector or an inspector cannot go beyond the party line.
Right.
So,
One second.
imperative.
Mr. Gaur, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I apologize. Harish Salve is on the phone line right now. And there is a reason why we wanted Mr. Salve to join this conversation, because he's currently approaching the Supreme Court with a petition to hold people in power accountable for the statements they make while there is an investigation on. Harish Salve, thank you so much for joining us on Mirror Now this evening. Now, here's my point. Here is a perfect example of what you're talking about. There is a case on, and we have seen repeatedly members of political parties who are in power come out and say irresponsible things about the victim and about the details of the case, Mr. Salve.
Well, I've not kept track of who said what, but clearly nobody has a right to comment. Nobody is holding public office has a right to comment on the ongoing investigation. I saw on the NDTV website, I saw what the Chief Minister said. I don't think he commented on the investigation. He was reacting to whether the BJP chief should be asked to resign. That's a political issue, and that's a separate matter. But I don't think anybody has a right to comment on the investigation, on whether the police got the facts right in the FIR, whether they lodged the bona fide FIR or they didn't, is a matter which I think needs to be dealt with firmly and in the courts. And the trouble is, when we have a situation like this, we all wake up and realize how the system has reached rock bottom. Until you fix the working of the system, this is not going to change. This is not just a politician's son. The way all this is done, the way complaints are recorded, it's extremely slipshod. On various, there have been allegations that rich people are able to get away, the allegations influential people are get away, and sometimes it's just callousness. So I think we need to worry about how FIRs are recorded by the police, whether the young lady's statement was appropriately taken, not taken, and I'm sure very soon this will all be before a magistrate, where she will have a full right to say her piece and see that the police gets the complaint correct. But I'm quite sure, and our systems are now slowly but surely becoming more robust as far as the interference by governments are concerned. And I think with the best of intentions, even if somebody wants to help these youngsters, I don't think that's going to happen, especially this young lady who has taken it head on and has had the courage to go public about what happened to her.
Mr. Salve, Ramveer Bhatti of the BJP in Haryana made a statement saying, why was she out so late? Parents should be responsible for children who stay out so late at night. Girls should go home at a right time to make sure these things don't happen. This is an example of a statement that would mislead the police to believe it was the victim's fault or some way.
No, that's a mindset you can only lament. That in India of 2017, somebody even says something is unfortunate. But that's something which is a social problem, I think, across the board. It's not in any one political system. But I'm more concerned with the rule of law cannot be held hostage to any pressure. And up till now, it appears that the girl has boldly gone and given her a complaint. The police will have to investigate the complaint. The Chief Minister has only said comments on the political side. But with this kind of glare and all you people sitting there with your cameras, I doubt if they'll be able to show any latitude in the matter of investigation if the young lady, with the kind of courage she has shown, is able to hold up her courage.
Absolutely. Mr. Salve, thank you for joining us. That's Harish Salve joining us live on Mirror Now, talking about the fact that people in power should be held responsible for what they say in cases like this. And in this particular case, we rely on the law. And we hope that, of course, as the testimony comes before a magistrate, that given the fact that the victim has been so brave and so bold, that justice will be served. Swaranjit Sen, go ahead.
Yes, I was just saying that, we have to think of some additional method to ensure that the best is done by the police in such cases. Probably parallel assistance from the victim side with proper advocates working side by side with the police to ensure that the police does not dilute the case. I feel some system like that has to be introduced because the regular systems are not working. Second thing is, I feel that even the judiciary should have less patience in dealing with cases like this and should not allow any kind of leniency when it is a case of, trying to divert the attention from the facts by the various advocates, or in case some additional facts are being fed in which are not relevant to the case. For instance, she was drinking, she was out at night. I mean, what is this rubbish? Are we living in an independent and free society, or is it a society that is bent upon subjugating the girl or the woman? What are we living in? What kind of a society are we living in?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm sure, I think
in?
much has to be done to train the police also. The police training needs to be upgraded to specifically focus on situations like this, and how an officer must deal with it, and how he must bring the records on paper where they cannot be, meddled with. All these things have to be taught. I feel it is the bureaucracy that includes the administration and police and the judiciary whiudhich are certainly failing us.
Okay, let me just allow me to interrupt Mr. Sen for a second. Varnika joins us right now. The victim of this particular incident. Varnika, I first of all want to applaud you for the bravery that you have displayed. You are right now an example to women across the country to come forward, to address the problem, to file the complaint, to fight. Unfortunately, in this country, we have to fight that our complaints be taken seriously, and then to point out to this entire country that it is not about the victim, but it is about the perpetrator. It is about the person who did this, who should be shamed, whose photograph should be flashed all over the newspapers, and who should be identified as someone who did this. Varnika, you did say, of course, in your Facebook post and in several other interactions after that, that you were very happy with the way the police had handled this particular case. Since then, do you believe that letting this person off on bail was a mistake? Do you believe that justice has been served, or do you think that the fact that he's important sort of got in the way?
I think it's still starting. The investigation is still there. The case is starting. So I don't think, at least it doesn't matter too much to me that he's out on bail right now, because my fight is against everyone like him, you know, and eventually I believe I still have faith in the system. I still have faith in the police. And I hope that if everyone keeps doing their jobs the way they have, there is absolutely no chance that these guys can get away.
You know, Varnika, there were several people who came out today, including Ramveer Bhatti of the BJP Haryana, who said, why was she out so late? Parents should be responsible. Girls should go home on time. This sort of nonsense that we are so used to hearing right now, where you point at the victim instead of the perpetrator. Does that upset you? It infuriates me. But did it upset you today? Is there something you'd like to say to these people?
It's not that he's saying it about me, but in general, I mean, you know, these are things that I have spent years ranting on social media and to my friends about. That why is it that I have to answer to someone every time I step out of the house after dark? Why should these guys not have to answer, who are the reason that I feel unsafe stepping out of the house after dark? And it's the same thing that he said. He says, why was the girl out? And, you know, there's all of that, the whole social media campaign against me about, you know, oh, she was drunk, which is not true. But even if it is, why is it that I am supposed to be ashamed of doing the same things that a guy can do? And does it say it somewhere in the law? Does the law say that a woman cannot be out as soon as the sun sets? If the law said that, I might listen to it. But if the law doesn't say it, that's for a reason. And the reason is that why should there be a difference between how a woman and a man is treated? This is called feminism, right? This is equal rights. This is what we're fighting for. Like, how dare you allow a man, two men to be drunk and driving and do all of that to me, terrorize me, and nobody raises a question at that. But the question is being asked to me, why was I out at night? Why shouldn't I be? Why shouldn't you keep these boys at home?
And you know, Varnika, these two boys were not charged with drunken driving. They're still not being charged with drunken driving. We don't know if their blood was tested. Shouldn't that have been...
There was a medical that confirmed that they were drunk.
Well, on the last report that's come in right now from our reporter in Chandigarh, it says that they've been charged with, you know, wrongful restraint of a person, and they've been charged also with stalking. There's no charge of drunken driving yet, and that really makes us wonder what's happening and why that drunken driving charge has not been levied. But Anila Singh of the BJP joins us right now, and I'm opening this up to our entire panel. Please raise your hand and let me know if you want to come in and say anything. Anila Singh, despicable behavior from members of the BJP in Haryana. There isn't another word. Despicable. I even saw one tweet that said her Facebook post says she was using her phone while she was driving. She should be charged. Why is it that the members of
I also had to jump a couple of red lights. Maybe they want to charge me for that as well.
Why is it, Anila Singh, that the members of the BJP in Haryana have behaved in this despicable manner in the last 2 days? What is wrong with these men?
I can say that whatever a couple of Karyakartas of Bharatiya Janata Party, if they have commented personally or they have attacked personally on Varnika, that is not acceptable at all. And this is free country, and the constitution has given us gender equality right. So if boys can roam around at 12 o'clock, even girls can go out at 12 o'clock. So anybody saying this thing that what she was doing at that time of night, or she mentioned something on Facebook.
Ramveer Bhatti of the BJP in Haryana, Ramveer Bhatti of the BJP in Haryana should be removed from the BJP. Will you expel him? Will the BJP expel Ramveer Bhatti of the BJP in Haryana? Expel him.
I am only spokesperson of Bharatiya Janata Party. I cannot comment on it that what action will be taken against Ramveer
As the spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, will you promise me that you will go back and call the higher-ups within your party and tell them that as a woman and as a spokesperson, you want this person expelled?
Yes, for sure. And as I mentioned earlier, that Bharatiya Janata Party does not stand with such people.
So you
who
will
give,
expel him?
Statements like this.
So you will expel him?
That it is somehow. Again, I will say that I am not the right person to say that whether they will be expelled or whether they will not be expelled.
Right, and you know, let me now put forward a couple of other things. This is what Kiran Bedi has put out on Twitter. The police would have played a more just role in a sensitive crime as this if they had held him in custody. Which means the police did not play a just role, and they cannot be a clearer voice than this one. The police screwed up. Flavia Agnes, the police screwed up. The Chandigarh police were under political pressure, weren't they?
So you can't call the police screwing up.
See, Varnika is the right person to comment on it, that whether police behaved with her properly or not.
Listen, let me, okay, one second, one at a time. To your answer,
I think the question is whether they did the right thing.
Is this question for me or somebody else?
Everyone knows I have made it clear to everyone everywhere that the police, as long as they were with me, were nothing but helpful.
Sure.
That is extremely clear, but that is a different question entirely. The question.
So Anila Singh, Varnika is not a senior police officer who understands the IPC really well. I'll tell you who are senior police officers: Uday Sahay, Swaranjit Sen, and certainly Kiran Bedi, all of whom agreed that the police did not use the right sections of the IPC, that they let this particular person off easy, and they should have been a lot harder in this case. Now, Priyanka Chaturvedi, what does this mean? If Varnika tells us that the police, for as long as they were with her, were responsible and they did their job, and immediately after that decided to let this person off easy, what does that mean?
So absolutely, if you look at what Varnika is saying, and I totally respect her for what she has gone and done and the stance she's taking. You had the Chandigarh police coming to her rescue and ensuring that she reached home safely. What follows after that is something that we need to hold accountable. Instead of blaming the police here, we should be questioning the BJP in power in Haryana and BJP in power at the center, because Chandigarh police works under the Ministry of Home Affairs. So if somewhere, some sections have been diluted, they need to be asking why these sections were diluted. Was it because of some political compulsion? Was it that you'll move from a non-bailable section to a bailable section and release them in 2 hours? Was there a political compulsion behind this? So these are the questions that need to be asked. And what is ultimately going to happen is you're going to see transfers happen with the people who actually came out to rescue Varnika, rather than holding the elected representative accountable. You have the chief minister going on record to say that no action will be taken against the Haryana chief. You have the the Haryana vice president coming forward and saying that why was she out till late night. You have a spokesperson, a national spokesperson of Bharatiya Janata Party, coming up with an offensive tweet about Varnika. So what does it speak about the elected representatives? Are they even committed? Is there a political will to ensure that Varnika gets justice? That's the question we need to ask today. The cops were doing their duty, but what went after that, and what happened after that, after realizing who were the ones who were being accused and how charges started getting diluted, is when you start fighting for justice for Varnika.
Absolutely. And Varnika, I want to ask you this, and this is a lot of big talk happening right now about CCTV footage. You said, and I'm quoting out of your Facebook post, I find it shocking that in a place with so many cameras and every light and cops around 200 meters away, these boys thought that they could either get into my car or take me into theirs. There were obviously CCTV cameras around every corner. We are now being told that the footage is nowhere to be found. How many cameras do you think you couldn't have possibly been paying attention at that point, but 5, 6, 7 cameras on the way?
I counted later. There were 8 junctions on that road. From when they started to when they were apprehended, there were 8 junctions. 4 of which junctions are literally the biggest in Chandigarh. The bulk of Chandigarh's traffic passes through those junctions every day. And apparently the CCTVs are, they're used to send out challans or whatever. So, I'm sure it's pretty easy to find out whether or not, They were killed.
Absolutely.
But I know that there were 8 junctions, out of which 4 are the biggest in the city.
Swaranjit Sen, this sort of excuse, and this infuriated me. The fact that they turned around and said CCTV footage is missing, it doesn't matter. You have the victim's entire testimony in this particular case, and she's giving it to you repeatedly and in a bold and a clear fashion. There's absolutely no sign of emotional distress in her voice. She's telling you very clearly, repeatedly, what is happening. And the fact that 511 has not been applied here, the fact that they've just somehow found ways and really weak loopholes to let these 2 boys off the hook. And I also want to know, what is the name of the second stalker? Why is it that the police has not released that name?
Yeah, that's very surprising, because both the boys were together, and certainly they know each other very well. I don't know, I would feel that the police does know and is, for some reason, is not letting us know who the other person was. And what does that show up? That shows a clear cover-up. And even at this stage, initial stage, then what is going to happen later on? You know, supposing this case goes for trial, there's a public prosecutor who's in charge of arguing on behalf of the government. And if he's not committed, he'll make any type of intentional or unintentional mistakes to dilute the case. And finally the case will be thrown out. These 2 rogues will be back on the road, and they'll do exactly the same thing. I don't know whether the police is going to investigate whether they were at any stage in their lives caught for any kind of criminal behavior earlier. I think that kind of a history has to be investigated and brought on paper to really know what kind of people we are dealing with. These are all portions of investigation which have to be gone through. And of course, the father himself should be worried. What nonsense, what kind of upbringing is he giving to his children that they should behave like this? It's atrocious. No, and if he's a leader, he should be ashamed of himself.
And we should ask this question, and this is the same thing that, that Varnika has said in her post. CCTV cameras, well-lit road, police around the corner. These people thought they could get away with anything, which means it's not the upbringing. These are people drunk on power. These are people who believe that their parentage makes them so powerful that they can do whatever they want. They can harass anybody they want. They can pick up any girl they want from the street, and that is the problem here. That is the system that we're facing. Dr. Ali.
I think this, this VVIP arrogance is very obvious in this particular kind of a case. As the investigations go forth, I think we will discover if the truth, as it should be coming out does not, then I think this will get more and more established as we go along. What I would like to say is that, on the part of a parent, there is moral responsibility which they carry with them, for their children. I don't see that they should be responsible for every action that the child does, no, but there is a moral responsibility. Also, I think, that in this case, many people, when they have asked the minister to resign, there could be a conflict of interest, you see, because if he were to, sort of take sides, or to, cover up in any way, I think that would be, a kind of a conflict of interest involved. So, you see, at such a stage, I think, till the investigations are not clear, I would think that, anyone in a responsible position would take a back seat and say, as of now,
in an ideal world, Priyanka Chaturvedi, in an ideal world, people in powerful positions would take a back seat. In an ideal world, also, these 2 young men would still be in custody, but they are not. This is not an ideal world.
So in an ideal world, you would also have the police not being influenced in conducting a free and fair probe, but unfortunately we are seeing that happen. But there is time when we started seeking accountability from our elected representatives. When at a time in 2014, if you would remember, we all endlessly discussed what happened with Nirbhaya and how women's safety and security was a challenge. It became a campaign promise, a campaign commitment from those in power today, where they said they would ensure that. I was on another channel where the Bharatiya Janata Party MP of Chandigarh laughed out when a question was asked of her whether the CCTV camera was working or no, where she laughed it off, saying that, you know, this is how Indian public companies work. Sometimes these CCTV cameras don't even work. So what are we holding up? How are we just laughing away such kind of instances? Where is the safety and security that you promised? Where is the accountability that we seek from our elected representatives? Until that doesn't happen, we can continue hoping to live in an ideal world, in a world where people hold themselves morally corrupt, morally accountable for deeds happening and brazenness that we are seeing as far as this particular episode is concerned.
Right, Ramakanth Gaur, when we brought up drugs in school, the BJP ruling party was very quick to say parents need to take responsibility for what their children do. If children are using drugs in school, it's the parents' fault because they're not paying enough attention. But here in this case, in a very convenient flip-flop, there's a lot being said about don't blame the father for the son's actions. How convenient. How is this young man drunk both on alcohol and on power, if not because of who his father is? Ramakanth Gaur.
See, this is most unfortunate event when father himself is not coming forward to accept the folly of the son. This is something most unfortunate. He is holding a responsible power position in Haryana. Now, Chief Minister of Haryana himself come forward and say it is not the folly of the father, it is relating to the son, and law will take its own course. But law is not taking its own course. Law enforcement agency was quick enough to protect the girl, but it was influenced whilst registering the FIR and whilst taking subsequent action. If you look at the camera reports recorded by some channels, DSP Satish Kumar has specifically stated that I am booking these two guys under the non-bailable offences. But subsequently what we saw is that they were let off from the police station. So somebody has influenced, irrespective of whatever is being said and done. So there is no holy cow here. Government is very cautious about the social security system. They were talking about Aadhaar, they talk about this and that. But what are they talking about providing us the security? They talk about social security. There are CCTV cameras which are installed on road, and we, the taxpayers, are paying hefty amounts to, cater these service providers. They are not functioning. So, security of the normal public is endangered. At the same time, they have failed to provide the justice to a beti of this country, where they are talking about Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao. A beti of this country who is brave enough put forward her case, and her case is being botched up by these politicos and not by the police. Police is being influenced. I want to bring in Varnika to ask her a very important question. Varnika, I also read your father's Facebook post, and I must tell you that it is so heartening and it's so brave that he says, as a father, this is my responsibility. People have, and I'm reading out of it, he said, I feel compelled to take this matter to its logical conclusion. Those close to me have advised us not to do it, but I believe that as a father, my duty to my daughter is to stand by her side. And I want to compliment your dad for, obviously, I mean, the fact that you were such a brave young person is because you have such a brave dad and he's raised you that way. But for an ordinary girl who perhaps did not have that luxury, do you think she would have the same kind of support? Do you think all the rest of us, all of the rest of the girls in Chandigarh or in Haryana would be able to stand up and do what you've been able to do if they didn't have a strong, a brave, and perhaps also a powerful father?
No, definitely not. And this is the point that I've been making the whole time, that how can a woman expect anyone else to protect her? The day we become responsible for ourselves, and that responsibility to make us responsible rests on the parents, because I am who I am because of what my parents made me. So it is the parents of girls actually who are responsible for making their girls capable of defending themselves. This is women empowerment, because the day a man is afraid to attack a girl because she might be able to defend herself is the day these things will stop. They count on fear, right? That is what they're feeding on. That is what they think makes it so much easier for them to get their way. Because they are certain that if they behave in this way or that way, or they do enough things, the woman will get so scared that she might, be paralyzed with fear, or she might panic and not be able to do something. And that is the fear that we need to let go. We have to change our attitude first. This is what I have understood. When the whole thing was happening, it's not like I was thinking about, I don't even think what I did was brave. It was just the most natural thing for me to do. And that's because my parents have taught me that. They have taught me. They know that because of the work I do, I need to go out late at night a lot of times. And I'm alone a lot of those times too. So they have taught me how to handle myself. I know to be alert. I know to keep checking left and right, just make sure that everything in my surroundings is okay. I know that if a car starts harassing me, the first thing I need to do is note the number, and the second thing I need to do is call the cops. I think I'm also lucky because I was in Chandigarh, where the cops actually were quite proactive about my safety. But if I hadn't been in Chandigarh, or if I hadn't been privileged enough to have a car, or if I'd been on a two-wheeler instead, it would have gone very, very, very differently. I think that is the whole point. Yeah.
Yes. And I respect what you're saying. Anila Singh, Kiran Kher of the BJP has put out a tweet saying, this is really unfortunate, should not happen to anybody, but let's not play politics. Now, first of all, it infuriates me and I get so angry when people use the word unfortunate. Unfortunate is bad luck. This is not bad luck. This is criminal behavior. We should stop using the word unfortunate to describe incidents like this. This is criminal behavior and it's not unfortunate. Secondly, she goes on to say, let's not play politics with this incident. What does that mean, Anila Singh? Who's playing politics? What does that mean, let's not play politics with this? Isn't that a disrespectful thing to say?
When we say that do not play politics, or I can say that a political outcry triggered once this whole incident, sad incident happened. The only thing is, when Bharatiya Janata Party is targeted, let me yes, of course, that is what I am saying. Lefay asked me that what do you mean, or what anybody else means when they say that do not politicize it. That is what I am saying. When BJP's name is involved in it, because since the accused is son of BJP chief Haryana, so that is why it is getting politicized. But if we talk about the victim, if we talk about the accused, and we stay concentrated on that, then it doesn't get politicized.
To you, Anila Singh, in no small terms, Anila Singh, in no small terms, that the accused would have never done what he did if he was not the son of the BJP chief of Haryana. Let me say this to you. If he was not the son of the BJP chief of Haryana, he wouldn't be drinking and driving. He wouldn't be intimidating and attempting to kidnap a young woman under the street light. He would not be out of jail today, and that is the truth. So you cannot expect anybody to leave out that very important fact that he is in fact the son of the BJP chief of Haryana. How do you mean don't politicize? When sons of your BJP chiefs go out and pick up girls on the street, that's politicizing.
I am not going to say a single word in his protection, but at the same time, I would like to convey and I like to tell, and everybody knows about it, Bharatiya Janata Party is the first political party in this country who has struck VIP culture. We strike down VIP culture. So you can't say that Bharatiya Janata Party is in inevitable condition.
An FIR against these very persons
and the
is being botched up. The investigation against these persons is being botched up at the very first stage.
In VIP culture.
Ma'am, this is more than a VIP culture. The FIR is botched up. The investigation is botched up at that very stage.
That's it.
Your
And the police
CCTV
is
cameras
still
are not
being-
working. You have not taken any action against
And
any
the police
person.
is still being arrogant.
You
Ramakanth
want
Gaur,
to
the
say
police
that,
came out in a press
accused
conference
son,
today
did
and
he
said,
put any
don't turn
pressure
this
on
into
the
a media
police?
trial. Now, would we have any semblance of justice if this was not a media trial? Would we have any
they have
semblance of
problems.
justice?
Saying police is doing a
If
right
the media
thing,
takes the issue, now they are not taking themselves, they are not taking this issue themselves. Kiran Bedi, a responsible police officer, had made a statement. Two panelists who are responsible police officials, they made the statement. A lawyer and several other media personnel are actually taking too much pain for getting the justice done to the victim. And this has to be done. Police may have a problem because their efforts to hamper the investigation is exposed by the media, and that is the reason they have problem with the media.
Flavia Agnes, is this not VIP culture? Is this not VIP behavior? Is it okay to take the red light off the car but allow the brat in the car to drink, to bully women, to terrorize women, and then let him off on bail? Is that not VIP culture?
Exactly, and the message that has gone out by doing this to the country at large is so dangerous that it's not only Haryana, it's not only Chandigarh, it's today the entire country. Almost every state is ruled by BJP, and if this is what the BJP is sending message down the rank and file, at every state this is going to happen. These guys are going to drink, they can go out, they think they can get away with it. The government had to be extra responsible because it was somebody, their party chief son who was involved. And this kind of things are happening in a country. This is not the first time. And BJP promised that they will do something else. They will not have this kind of VIP culture. But nothing seems to have changed. These are all slogans. And if BJP was in the opposition, they would have made a huge hue and cry about it. Asked for, that person to be stepped down. And when it happened, Nirbhaya case happened when Sheila Dikshit was there, BJP went and said that Sheila Dikshit should step down. Now what are they doing about it? 5 years down the line, they are following a culture that they promise that they will take away from the country. And as far as women are concerned, it seems that this is not a political issue and it should not be politicized, and women can be subjected to this kind of abuse, torture, violence, everything. And I think today if you are going to ask what was she doing, why was she out late, the BJP authorities are asking this. There's something really wrong in the way they are functioning, according to me.
Absolutely, and I want to go back to Varnika. Varnika, there's the statement that there's no VVIP culture. This is nothing but VVIP culture, and this is not even the person in power. These are his kith and kin. These are his family members who think that they can do anything because their dad is powerful. This is typical to janta nahi mein kaun hu behavior that has always been around, that has not gone anywhere. Nothing has changed, has it?
Nothing has changed. You're right.
Yeah, I mean that the brazen. I couldn't actually fathom how brazenly, how brazen it was, how blatantly they got that guy got out of the car in front of people, in front of cameras, in front of an approaching cop car, and actually tried to open my car door, banged on my window. And it's not like he knocked on my window. He came quite towards my car quite aggressively and banged on it. Might have even broken it. So at that point I couldn't understand. I thought maybe they were just so drunk that they didn't even know what they were doing. But I mean it makes more sense now that it's quite possible that they thought that they could get away with it.
And Varnika, for how long were these people chasing you?
About 15, 20, 25 minutes. Like I'm not entirely sure, but yeah.
For 25 minutes. And you said also when this person got out of his car and he approached yours that you honked really loudly. And it sounds from your explanation, from your testimony, that it was an extremely distressing situation. He obviously even then thought that nothing would ever, no harm would ever come to him.
They were Yeah, and you know, it's not that it surprised me, but what I also found weird was that later when, you know, the guy started trying to apologize and telling me things like, मेरे से गलती हो गई. What does that mean? Like, गलती क्या हो गई कि मुझे जाने दिया? Because it wasn't one mistake. It wasn't like they made one 25-minute long mistake. They kept doing it. I could see very clearly from the beginning to the end that their only intention was to find a way to somehow block me and stop my car. And he tried to open the door. So what do you mean galti ho gayi? And then they're apologizing. Like, you know, I don't need an apology. Even now, I don't need an apology from anyone. I need these guys to get what they deserve. And to be made especially to be made an example out of. Because I myself am so sick of having to be afraid all the time. Because, you know, at the end of the day, of course, you know, I'm doing this and I'm trying to be as brave as I can. But at the end of the day, because we live in this country where I have, going to a different thing, I have literally not met a woman, an Indian woman in my life who hasn't been harassed by a guy at some point or another. One single woman. And so, you know, I mean, this is why it doesn't matter who these guys are. In fact, I think it works in the favor of all the women of the country, that if he gets what he deserves, being the son of such an influential person, if with all the support that I have, if I can make sure that this guy gets what he deserves, every other guy will at least, maybe you know, it won't stop entirely, but at least they will have to think twice or thrice or 4 times before they try something like this.
You're very right. That's very well said. I have one question for you, Varnika. You did say that these people apologized to you once the police arrived. Explain to us what their behavior was when they saw the police come up to them. Was there still some level of brashness trying to explain to the police who they were? At what point did they flip from assault to apology?
No, so actually, he came towards my car and I started moving, you know, so he would not actually reach, but he did reach. But at the same point, the cops came and started going towards them. So as soon as I saw that the cops are getting to them and there's really no way for these guys to escape now, I left. So I don't know what their reaction was. But what I do know is that when I went back, when the cops called me and I went back with my dad, went back to the same spot, these guys were waiting there. And it started with, it was a misunderstanding. And again, 25-minute long, 6, 7, 8 kilometer long misunderstanding that happened 40 times repeatedly. When, of course, when they saw that that there was no way I was backing off. And then they saw that, and then they thought maybe apologizing will work. Like, I don't know if these guys have sisters, but do you think if a guy did this to their sister and he apologized, they would say, अच्छा चलो गलती हो गई, आपने sorry बोल दिया, ठीक है, हम मान गए. हमारी बहन को जो आपने traumatize किया, everything that you did to our sister is now suddenly negated because you said sorry. And I mean, of course, they just wanted to get off the hook. But I just find it ridiculous that they think this is such a small thing. They think this was so tiny that they can just say the words to me and I will let them go.
Absolutely. And I want to give you know a last few minutes to Swaranjit Singh and to Uday Sahay. Mr. Sen, justice needs to be served just like she said, just like Varnika said, swiftly and with precision, making an example of this case. If you were in charge, Mr. Sen, right now, what would you insist the police do next?
Well, I would think that these boys should not have been released. That is one thing. Secondly, immediate inquiry into the background and the intentions have to be brought out very clearly. It is obvious that the intimidation was to get the better of this lone lady, and what thereafter would follow is anyone's guess. So I don't think the police should be at all lenient with them, and I suppose that the case should be built up in such a way that it is an exemplary conviction in the end, so that many of such hooligans, rascals and rogues are deterred from carrying out such kind of lewd and absolutely hooligan behavior. That is what I would expect. And it depends on the police now how strong they want to seem to be and how strong they can be. It is also up to the senior officers to take this matter very seriously and see that these two boys are nailed once and for all, so that it's a good example set for others.
Uday Sahay, you're very familiar with how Haryana works. Should the police officers, particularly in this case, be called to question as well?
Well, I think right since the beginning, you have been asking the victim about what went wrong or what went okay so far as police role was concerned. She is not a trained police officer, nor she is a lawyer. We can't expect her to read between the lines. The first response of the police was from PCR, Police Control Room Van, which is a very different unit. And the Police Control Room Van, anybody who is aware of the functioning of the police, is supposed to respond to the situation first and then immediately hand over the situation to the local police, which registers the case. And here, so long as the first stage was concerned, everything appeared professional and laudable on the part of the police. But soon after you get into the nitty-gritty of law enforcement, you find that the burking starts working.
Yes.
Burking in police means minimizing the offense. Burking within police means that you convert a dacoity into burglary and burglary into theft. A situation like this, you very diligently remove the sections which are non-billable section, because those sections can put those guys for a longer period of time behind the bars. And something certainly is at work while it's being done. So we can't expect the victim to give you explanations of this kind. How come, if as per the statement of the victim, there are 10 cameras installed and not even one working? It is understandable if 2 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 is not working. Not 10 out of 10 cameras can stop working at the same time. Yes. I find a conspiracy in this. Yes. And nobody is talking about what went wrong in this. Is it a design? Is it by design or it's by default? I mean, to a layman, not on the ground, it appears to be by design. So there are gaping holes. And there's no reason for us to keep quiet on this, because end of the day, it's not only the victim. As she is rightly pointing out, the police,
yes,
the entire criminal justice system should make an exemplary case out of this case,
yes,
so that it is not repeated. If you don't do that, then it's going to be repeated again, all over again, and we are all again assembling to discuss the same thing over and over again.
I have a message here, as I wrap up in conclusion, I have a message for Mr. Manohar Lal Khattar, the Chief Minister of Haryana, who has very confidently said, this is a case against one particular individual. No, Mr. Khattar. This is a case against society. This is a case against your entire government. You have failed every woman in the state of Haryana again. You have failed every woman in the country of India again. This is the same Chief Minister who came out and said, if a girl is dressed decently, boys will not look at her that way. If you want freedom, why don't you roam around naked? How much freedom are you women going to ask for? It is because you think in this manner. The people in your state think they can get away with whatever they want. Now, with what face is this government going to ask us to take selfies with our daughters? Now, with what face is this government going to say Beti Bachao? Because when it came to one of your own, you stepped as far as to shield the perpetrator. If the media hadn't come and stood behind this particular victim with as much power and clout as it did, you would have brushed this under the carpet, which was every intention. You had every intention to do so. The buck in this particular case lies solely and squarely at the doorstep of the Chief Minister of Haryana. The Home Office reports to him. If he wants to save face at all, if he wants to in any way seem responsible for the people of his state, he should make an example of these people. He should then go out and expel every member of his party who said disrespectful things about the victim in this case. But my guess is, viewers, that he's not going to. Because he has said so many disrespectful things about women in the past that obviously he doesn't see this as a problem. Cows have better rights in Haryana than women do. And that's just the truth. Fortunately for us, cows don't vote. Women vote. And if you don't stand by us, Mr. Khattar, in the next election, the same women will vote against you. That is a language I hope you understand. But in the meantime, speaking on behalf of this channel, and the fact that we do not track politics, we are going to go into every little shred of evidence and every little detail of this case to catch you every time you try to get these boys off the hook. We will make sure that every piece of buried evidence is made available to the people of this country. So you cannot let them off the hook, and you cannot get away with shielding your own when they commit crime against women. We're watching.